How we can ultimately dismantle any of it if we don't stick to a intensely radical politic.
You're not broke if you're taxing rich people.
We break production for profit and we replace it by production for need.
This event is brought to you by Haymarket Books. Now more than ever, it is critical to support independent publishers, independent bookstores, and independent voices. There are two ways you can do this today. First, by buying books from Haymarket at haymarketbooks.org. And secondly, by joining the Haymarket Book Club. The following event will be recorded and shared afterwards on the Haymarket Books YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video now, and share it with as many people as possible. If you like this event, be sure to catch these upcoming events in Haymarket's live stream series. You can register for these upcoming events on the Haymarket Books Eventbrite page. If you miss an event, you can listen to the recording afterward by subscribing to our podcast, Haymarket Live, wherever you get your podcasts. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. We are moderating the chat, but we cannot guarantee that everyone will observe our community guidelines. People who violate these guidelines will have their comments deleted as quickly as we are able. This event will have live closed captions. Instructions for accessing the captions will be posted in the chat. We should have time for Q&A, so please post your questions in the YouTube chat window, and we'll get to those later in the program. Thanks for joining us today. Our event will begin shortly.
Well, I didn't want to start with cursing. Anyway, hello.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. We're here to celebrate Cheryl Boyce-Taylor and her incredible book, Limitless Heart. We have welcomed the poet extraordinaire, the #1 poet in South Carolina, Glenis Redmond. She has the best, flyest jewelry and coolest shoes. She has Sea of Sisterhood and Poetry to celebrate here with Cheryl as we navigate grief and living and love and loss, because that's what we do.
Yes.
My job today is just to introduce these folks with their bios, but I want to ask you to take a moment to say happy birthday to Cheryl Boyce-Taylor, who added another year of wisdom and grace yesterday. Cheryl Boyce-Taylor is a poet and teaching artist. She earned her MFA from Stone Coast at the University of Southern Maine and an MSW from Fordham University. Her collections of poetry are many. They include Raw Air, 2000, Night When Moon Follows, also 2000, because she hustles, 2 books in a year, Convincing the Body, 2005, and Arrival, 2017, which was a finalist for the Patterson Poetry Prize. She also wrote the poetic memoir, Mama Phife Represents, published by Haymarket Books in 2021, which won the 2022 Audre Lorde Award for Lesbian Poetry by the Publishing Triangle. Well deserved. We Are Not Wearing Helmets, published in 2022 by Northwestern University, was nominated for the 2023 Hurston Wright Legacy Award, also well deserved. Cheryl's life papers and portfolio are stored at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in New York City. Oh, if that's not a flex, I don't know what is.
Right.
She lives in Brooklyn, New York. Lucky for me. Glenis Redmond is the first poet laureate of Greenville, South Carolina. Hey!
Yay!
She is a Kennedy Center teaching artist and a Cave Canem alumna. Do you see? She has authored 6 books of poetry, including Backbone, Under the Sun, What My Hand Say, Listening Skin, 3 Harriets and Others, and praise songs for Dave the Potter, artwork by Jonathan Green, which is some Southern Black aristocracy for real in the world of artwork. Glenis received the Governor's Award and was inducted into the South Carolina Academy of Authors. She was recently a recipient for the Peacemaker Award by the Upstate Meditation Center in 2022. Her poetry has been showcased on NPR and PBS and has been most recently published in Orion Magazine, Story South, and the New York Times. Just a moment so you notice. It's amazing. As well as numerous literary journals nationally and internationally. I'm so honored to be here introducing these 2 powerhouses, and I'm grateful you've come to join us. Welcome, Cheryl and Glenis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. That was beautiful. Shout out to Maya.
Shout out to Miss Maya. That's what
Yeah.
I call her.
That was beautiful.
Oh, she was my editor on Mama Phife Represents and on the Limitless Heart. She worked me, girl.
I know she did. She know what to do.
Oh, yes, yes, in the best possible way.
Yes. And today is all about you, Cheryl. I am so happy to be here and celebrate you, my sister. I just want to say to the listeners, number one, this book, The Limitless Heart, is astounding inside and out. And it's her Cheryl's collected new and selected poems from 1997 to 2022. This sister is prolific. Before I talk a little bit more about the book, Cheryl, I wanted to know if it was okay, because during COVID, you contacted me and you asked me to write a review of We Are Not Wearing Helmets. And I never told you that reading your book during that time, going through cancer and reading your book was one of the lifelines for me. And just to marvel at your mind, marvel at your spirit and your craft and how you move in the world. So is it okay if I just read a few? I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a few excerpts from it.
Yes, absolutely.
You all, I got to know Cheryl even better through the close read of this book. And it's a long review, so I'm just going to read 4 or 5 paragraphs from it. And you can go to Mom Egg Review online and read the whole review. And I highly, highly encourage it. But this is what I was saying about Cheryl and her heart. Cheryl Boyce-Taylor populates the poetic language with flowers: hibiscus, delphiniums, morning glories, petunias, peonies, cosmos, hydrangeas, moonflowers. The litany goes on and on, proving this Trinidadian poet not only loves flowers, but also knows them. She unfurls a floral chain as an extended metaphor throughout the entire collection that enchants and transports the reader, though the ground is riddled with emotional landmines. Taylor does not sidestep, but uses floral imagery to deftly wield her elegiac wand to uplift the reader and memorialize her loved ones. Taylor's blooms acts as portals for the reader to step through and discover where and how this island woman came into being. To see the poet as daughter, to see the poet as mother, to see the poet as lover, to see the poet as activist, and learn how she holds her greatest wounds. Each flower rises from the ground as a testament, as Taylor points out to the reader her losses. Here, and here. As readers, we are carried along in a dreamlike state through the poet's memorial garden, yet she palpably awake and covers much emotional ground while tending to pertinent people and places. This book is exquisitely layered with accolades, and these poems honor and uplift. They call out the double-edgedness of life. The broken-hearted warrior advances with a battalion of women poets behind her. People like Maya Angelou and June Jordan and Andazaki Shange and Lucille Clifton, Audre Lorde and Arcelis Gourmet, and Julia Howard. Taylor speaks with the necessary tongue of tribute, proving she fights and loves. This poem, she wrote to Ursula. She said, "Your mother reassuring you we will be together again. Soon, I love you, daughter. For a moment, you hate her. Her voice calls your words from hiding its places. For her poem calls and calls you like every ocean you have ever known." And I'm going to just close by saying, Cheryl Taylor is a poet's poet, a master gardener. She holds a class on how to sow seed. She bows her head poetically while tending to a new crop. In every weather, she is cursing the sky or nurturing self and others with tears sprung from her grief. She waters the ground, yet she never gives in to struggle. She knows when to raise her head in gratitude to the sun. With love and defiance, she becomes the boldest bloom amongst her bountiful orchard. She writes and reaps from her labor and brings forth both beauty and balm. Taylor prophesizes to herself and others of what it is to flower. Every watchful and every listening, she wakes on the steady beat of the heart of the earth. With this pulse, she sees truth burst into bloom in its proper season. She captures the fullness and plunks down verse into rows upon rows on the page.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Can I follow that? I don't know.
Well, you can follow it because all of that is true. It's the metaphor and it is the literal. But the other thing, before you speak, I just want to say, Cheryl, I knew you before I knew you. I remember being with a New York friend in a bar, and he said, if you ever work with anybody, you must work with Cheryl Boyce-Taylor. And I had that in the back of my mind, but I realized that we had a near miss of a connection. You came to Asheville in 1994 and competed in the Asheville Poetry Slam.
Yes. Yes.
That was the year I missed that slam. I was not in the slam world until the end of that year, and I moved to Asheville. So there was that near miss there.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh
Oh, I
my God,
see.
we were supposed to, there's then this mystical thread between the two of us. And then later on with a dear friend, Patricia Stark of us both, Patricia and I were walking through Brooklyn, and it was just a beautiful day, like today was. Like music was playing, the flowers were in bloom, the sun was just light, and we saw poetry reading. Cheryl Boyce-Taylor. We walked in, and there you were with your large heart, and you asked us to read. And I just kept feeling that we were supposed to be connected. And as we follow the thread, we're both, mother of twins. You were in social work. I'm
Yes.
counseling, literary citizens. I mean, so I just feel like this thread has brought us here today, and I am grateful to honor you the day after your birthday, sister. You bloom and you flower fire, and I appreciate your work. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the community you have built.
Thank you so much. I remember that day so well. You all were walking, and I said, "Are you here for the poetry reading?" Which is always my life. And you all said no, but we are poets. And they came in, and I'm still close with Glenis, and I'm still close with Patricia. And that was a long time ago. I believe it was a little after 9/11 or right before 9/11.
Right, right.
So that's how long that
That's how
was.
long ago that was. Patricia did a poem
Yes.
for her grandmother, and I did a poem for her, my grandmother. And Cheryl, I love for you just to, I mean, we're going to go back and forth with conversation, but
Hmm.
I just love the musicality in your voice. And as we're celebrating you, I can't think of any better way for us to hear the music in your poetry tonight.
Okay. Okay. I will be reading from Convincing the Body. I'll be reading from all of the books, but I'm going to start with Convincing the Body. Study your poems when you think you're going crazy. Lay naked on the earth, cover your shame with praise poems. Cover the bright bay windows, curved around a cruel day. Make curtains of your poetry. Cruise the sky. Cruise the sky. Find that slight patch of sun. Stack poems, 2, 3, 5 at a time on top of each other. Add your tears. Yes, add your tears. Make a bewitching violet poultice. Cover those wounds, child. Cover those wounds. Stack, gather acacia leaves, a dash of sea salt, 2 unruly beams of light, 2 drops of blood from one left hand wedding finger, a fountain pen, 3 diamond nibs, 7 wads of paper. Keep by your bedside 1 flask Kerouac, 9 sprigs Audre Lorde, 3 June Jordan candles, 2 tablets Lucille Clifton, 10 wads Neruda, 3 large jars of Perdomo juice, 5 reams of Phife Dawg, Phife Dawg, Phife Dawg, 1 skillet, 2 teacups, 2 steel pans, and mountainous garlands of I, AI, AI, AI. Your reflection? Study your reflection. Use as mirror rainwater. Keep calabash full. Trace your mouth, lips deformed and bleeding. Praise that mouth and swear to love yourself. Study your reflection. Watch your eyes, look for crossing buffalo. Clear a path with 10 quick breaths. Your heart? Strike your heart. Strike it, child. Let it break, let it break. Strike it. Beat spontaneous poems from wrist, hips, lips, fingertips. Your heart? Beat violent, irreverent basin blue poems. Beat poems from legs, chest, eyes, breast. Now read, read. Damn, like a poet.
Woo! Woo!
I always let that poem settle my heart when it's struggling and hurting too much.
Oh, strike your heart. Strike your heart. Strike your heart. Beautiful. Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, I feel it's the musicality, but it's the words themselves are instruments. Your voice is the instrument, and the musicality just comes across so beautifully. And I'm sorry, I'm emotional right now. That was emotional. And I thank you for that. Wow. I wanted to talk before I do any poems. I wanted to talk, I wanted you to continue to read, but I wanted to talk how beautiful again. I want everybody out there to go and get a copy of The Limitless Heart from Haymarket. Shout out to Haymarket for this beautiful work. It's just
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. And also shout out to the artist, the cover art work by Kate Quarford. Is that right?
Yes.
And then the cover design is by Rachel Cohen. And then this book is dedicated to Cheryl's love, Sini. So I have all of Cheryl works, all of her works. Half of them were given to me as gifts, so they're signed from her, and the other I bought. So I said, get all the books, but definitely get this book for the holidays. She's got on her fly red dress.
Christmas
Please. Cheryl, will you grace us with a poem, a poem from The Limitless Heart? Is that?
Yes, I will. I would like to share two poems from The Limitless Heart that honors my birthday, or what I have been thinking this last year on my way to 73. I have two poems that I wrote for the book.
Fly a 73-year-old. I know.
Okay, so the first one is called Recipe to Write a Life. Count sunflowers on the first day they arrive. Count sunflowers on the first day they arrive. Hold family recipes in your head. Hire a cleaning service. Send your wash out. Cinnamon ginger tea each morning. Hold in your body a singing like rainwater. House everything at your pen's tip. Pray. Pray to start each day. Hear your Father's voice. Know that elegant song anywhere. Carry with pride the birth certificate that says illegitimate. 8. And your arms outstretched wide like grandmother's back bedroom window. Open for rain. Goldfinches and twin brother to return. Write a poem to the sea. It's always aqua blue near cousin Utra's house. In red bean garlic soup, add basmati rice and pigtails. Wait for that sweet boy to cuddle your face. His kisses flying hard flying high over shoulders and gaze. Babe, I still have that mama face, but what shall I do with it now?
Mm. Ooh. You do not skirt. You do not fear. So beautiful. And you're instructing us in these poems. These are Ars Poetica. They're just, we're hungry for what you tell us to do, and we will do it.
Oh, thank you. So this one is another little funny one, and it's called In the Seventh Decade.
Okay.
In the seventh decade, I'm looking fly in that bright mango dress. That fly ass off the shoulder head turner. I'd be 70. Still, I count all the ways I don't feel pretty or useful anymore. It is Poem a Day month. I count the hours flying by with no poems. Pretty soon it will be midnight and not one line. To distract myself, I stack dishes in the dishwasher, teacups lined up in colorful rows. I go in search of stubby gray chin hairs who refuse to be evicted. I pause, inhale the garlic and olive oil in the fresh kale salad. A faithful pot of brown rice always on the stove. The last year, tweezers and black hair dye have become my best friends. Lord, count the tweezers I lost this week alone. Heavy cups of black coffee bring me back to life. Forgive me as I count the days my brain sat unused. Days when I walked into a room only to forget why I was there. I need more memorizing and note taking, more poems, more memorizing and note taking. But I still chipper. Got my cranberry red lipstick always on the ready.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that poem. And I love how that poem talks to your earlier poem, Mango Pretty, which is probably the first poem I ever heard you do.
Oh, okay, okay.
Poem about self-acceptance, about love, about just embracing our dark-skinned, beautiful selves.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Poems about weight and
Yes,
food and yeah.
food, everything. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to read a couple of poems, and then we can jump into our conversation, and we'll talk. We'll follow each other, and we'll dance with each other.
Okay, okay.
How about that?
That sounds good to me.
I wanted to read a poem that talks, because you were doing Ars Poetica, writing about writing, and I wanted to do two poems that have to do with that. And the first one is called Sketch, and it's in the listening skin.
Oh, beautiful. Get that book.
Thank you.
Give it to friends.
Cheryl Boyce-Taylor did blurb this book. Full transparency. So the first poem I'm going to read is for Harriet E. Wilson, who was one of the first African-American novelists. We now know it was Hannah Crafts, but Harriet E. Wilson, write her name down if you've never heard of her. I think it's a travesty that we have these names that we still don't know because of our educational system and because of America, and we should all have Harriet E. Wilson on our lips. So this poem is called Sketch. Harriet E. Wilson was also she wrote her book called Arneg, and she was clairvoyant, and she was an entrepreneur. She sold hair dye, thinking of, hair dye and tweezers. And before I say that, I want to say this about tweezers. You know, you think you got them all the hairs. Then I get out of my car in the natural light and I go, oh. So I'm always at stoplights. I'm the person at stoplights. So anyway, I want to read Sketch, and it goes like this. Sketch. Draw the face so we may stare at the rotten teeth truth. Give yourself a pristine mouth to say your piece through the crude doorway into a home on history's page where you're not hemmed in at the margins. With a determined hand, right the wrong. Write it. Press your free hand upon parchment, spill ink like night clouds that clot what your soul cannot hold. Catch what history hurls. Double your fist in defiance. Unfurl your world into long lines. Get straight to the point. Pen every deed. Record the heavy dreams that woke you each morning. Press down. The paper can bear your weight.
Yes.
Make the page speak of backbreak, the quill quiver with nothing less than the meat of it. Whip the naked flesh of the past like you were slashed. Bleed deep, dash history, even if it must stand on hobbled legs. No begging or bowing, stand in your place. Ink firm your existence out of the shadows. Make history one deliberate letter at a time, not as a slave, but not fully free either. Press your free hand upon your heart. Unbind your mind, no matter how the hand wavers. This is how perfect penmanship feels. One liberated turn after another. Head the helm. Write your ending. Write the sky. Burn through fog, mist, and muck. Through your eyes. Sketch a new horizon. Pulled and drawn by your own hand.
Wow. The instructions is so reminiscent of the poem convincing the body.
I'm convinced that every poem we ever write is informed by every poem we ever read or ever heard. They're all in conversations with each other.
With each other, yes.
And as we are in conversation with each other, our poems, I believe, at night are talking to each other, and then they influence our voice and how we get back to the page. I'm going to read one more, and then we'll get into our discussion. I'm going to read, it's another one, but it's telling how I write is the title of this poem, How I Write.
Okay.
Out of hunger, I find myself here with teeth in stomach. I lean into the ache, crack my whole self against the kitchen island edge. So much is born here in this place where I cook. My foremothers, they are all here too. Standing right behind me, dressed in the indigo of the cosmos, no recipe or cookbook in hand, just 10,000 hearts singing, it's time for you to know too, Glenis. They pour into me with one hand. I let the yolk spill into the container of the poem. Turn known and unknown, blend with salt of my tears and the cayenne of my rage that I have planned a lifetime around. They hand me what they have at hand, dust from the stars, water from the rivers, always red clay of the Palmetto or the west coast of the motherland. In this heat, I prepare, I bake, I broil and stew, only when they say, ready. Do I set the table of page and stage, serve what I was born to live and give? Machete with the sharpest blade, they hold my heart just so. In my pen, they feel blood and dreams. In unison, they chant, now, right.
Yes, these poems are really speaking to each other.
They are.
We just need to let the audience know we did not sit down and plan this. It is just
No.
falling in like that.
Yes, that's true. And I love that mystical thread that you have with the world and you have with place and you have it. You bring us more aware. And one of the questions I have for you is about your growth as a poet. How do you see a change from your very first book, Arrival, to this, this present book? How have you changed as a poet, a woman, a literary citizen? When you look back, how do you reflect on that stance, on your many stances?
Well, with Raw Air, I had
I'm sorry, Raw Air. I'm sorry, Raw Air was the first one.
With Raw Air, I had been carrying that book with me for a long time, writing down poems, and those were my early slam days, and I would go to the New Rican and slam and travel, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was hard work, it was painful work, but I still had a lot of fun doing it because we were on stage and just teasing each other and getting to know each other. And so that was a really good time. But as I continued to write, the world and my life got more serious. Things took a different turn. Like when I became a mother, that was a whole different turn. I realized that I had to be responsible, not just for myself, but be responsible for creating some type of world that my son could live in with freedom and
Amen.
voice.
Right.
So the poems changed, and the places that we began reading. Listen, well, we meaning my son's dad and I, we always loved world music, so we always played that, and I always wanted to make sure that I would get dialect into my work.
Yes.
But then, growing a child who was interested in words,
Yes.
that I had to really step up and read more and share more and take him to more places. On the Sundays I felt like staying home, I had to take him to the museum, which he didn't want to go, but once he got there, he didn't want to leave.
Exactly.
So all of those things, and then watching my mother aging, watching myself aging and looking very much like her, I started to really not be afraid of what I was writing. Because earlier I thought my family was going to give me a hard time over some of the things I was writing. But then I had to be honest with myself. Like I have a poem about my father that had he been alive, my father would not like. But I had to be truthful to myself. And so how has it changed? I'm more honest, I'm more forthright, and I really don't give a damn what I say in the work, because I am an observant. I don't go into writing my poems as an artist. I go in as someone who observes the flowers, the earth, the water. When I go to Trinidad, I walk through the market listening. I'm not buying a thing. I'm just listening. Well, I'm buying history, stealing, right? Really.
Yes.
I'm listening, I'm watching. And so that's the way that my work has changed. It really is more serious. And I am spending time in the last two books, although I always did honor the poets with whom I learned.
Yes.
But in the last two books, I have really honored some of the poets. And before we leave, I would like to read the last poem in the new book. But that is how it changed by becoming a mother. And when my mother passed away and when my son passed away, I became a whole different person.
Thank you for that reflection. And let's put a mark. Let's bookmark "She Led Me," the last poem in the Limitless Heart. And forgive me, I knew Raw Air was no one. My brain said Arrival. we know that's far down.
That's okay. That's cool.
But I like that trajectory about, I felt like I've been writing the same thing my whole life, but just going deeper, And like you were saying, I never really considered myself a slam poet, even though I participated in slam.
Yes, yes.
I always consider myself, well, I come from West Africa. My lineage from West Africa. I'm more griot. And then there's a lot of Southern, storytelling on the porch. I mean, that's the kind of poet I am. And then also, Black Baptist preachers, that cadence, that's where it comes from. And I see my work take the same walk. It's like, oh, these poems were way more musical, way more suited for the stage, not written for the stage, but there.
Yes.
And as I got older, as you were saying, and maybe we can move into that, talking about illness, or if you have a question you want to ask me. But you talk a lot about loss of your son Malik. You talk about illness too in all your work, throughout your whole work.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we connect so, is that we face what many turn their heads from.
Or we face what many are unable to face.
Right.
Yeah.
We're okay staring at the sun.
Yeah. Well, it was not until after Malik passed, and I was in therapy, and the therapist said to me, I can't believe you're still alive. So I thought she meant because of the loss of Malik.
Right.
But she said to me, because I think you know this already, that I had a twin at birth.
Right.
And he was stillborn. And then I had twins with Malik, and that his brother only lived for 8 hours. And she said to me, yeah, no wonder you write like that, because they're all around you.
Right.
Don't you realize they want to speak, and they want you to help them to speak? Some people might get a little nervous about that, but I didn't, because I know that I'm here for more than one reason. I know that I'm here to document history, document family, and to tell the truth as I see it. But yes, there's certain things that lingers in my work, and that is the loss. And I realized, okay, so that's what I've been given. Maybe because I can write about it without falling apart. Right. Although I do fall apart. But I think that is my work. And I'm hoping that people would see that there's so many styles and ways to grieve. There's so much joy in grief. I don't know how that sits with other people, but I know that after I lost Malik, I have never been more grateful in my life.
I mean, there's a line when you said, I forget how you put it, but there's a mother who loses his child. What is the name for that?
Yes. What name shall you call me now? And I think I've said that in a couple of times in different ways.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what there is no name for the mother who loses her child. If you lose your husband or partner, you're a widow.
Yeah.
If you lose your parent, you're an orphan. But what are you when you lose your child? I don't know what the name is for that.
That's right. And that song, The Motherless Child, we sing about, not having a mother, but what happens when the mother loses. And that's powerful. Do you have a poem about loss, about Malik, that you want to share with us at this moment?
Yes. Let me see. Okay, let me see. Okay, I think this is a good one.
Okay. They're all good. They're all great.
But it's in line with that conversation we were just having.
Yes.
This howl of ache is ripping my throat. Each time I raise my chin, a machete is thrown. There's blood on my knees. Purple morning glories cover my window. Downstairs, Anna's salsa is loud, a tribute to Our Lady of Guadalupe. I am crouched in a small space, trying to relearn my eyes, trying to remember how joy lingers.
Oh, that last line. I want to read a poem. A lot of people don't know. I mean, just thinking of Malik and your other child, and his name was
Michael.
Michael and Malik. When I went into therapy about 20 years ago, a therapist said, because I have twin girls, Amber and Celeste, and I told her that I had miscarried. And she said, well, what did you name him? And when people ask you how many children you have, you shouldn't say two. You should say three, two on earth and the other in heaven. That was my first time honoring Cameron. And I don't speak a lot about it. But in Listening Skin, I wrote a poem called I Lost My Baby. Not in couldn't find, but in perished. I lost my child. And still I was in search. He found me in my bed, busy dreaming. I lost my child. Blonde hair, hazel eyes, skin really fair. He found me in my bed, busy dreaming. He kissed me awake, though I was still asleep. Blonde hair, hazel eyes, skin really fair, shining like a familiar sun. He kissed me awake, though I was still asleep, saying, I will tell Amber and Celeste there's no school, snow. Shining like a familiar sun. How did he find us since we moved 3 times? He said, Mom, I will tell Amber and Celeste there's school, no school, snow. Bedside you stood, 12 years old, Cameron. How did you find us since we moved 3 times? You stood bedside, 12 years old, Cameron, with a quiet glow. I'm not lost, Mom. I'm here. I'm still here.
Wow. That is beautiful and difficult, but it must be said.
Yes, and that's what you do with Mama Phife Represents. You give us permission to be in that grief and grieve and call others around us while we're grieving too. And I wonder where that strength comes from, Cheryl.
I don't know all the answers, but I finally thought, Malik, how could you leave? This is not natural for you to leave me behind.
It's not natural.
But then I realized that he had done so much work. He was tired. There were times when he was sick in the hospital bed, doing interviews, making videos, making the nurses laugh. He had done a lot of work, and I realized that it was my job to carry it on.
Wow.
So I had to be strong. And there was another time when my mother passed away, because I left Trinidad when I was 13. My mother sent me to live with her sister and her sister's husband because she was going to follow and come to live in New York. So she did come, and many years later, when she passed away, I was so inconsolable. And I was in the bathroom one morning, and my mother came in and she said, why are you just killing yourself over this like that? She said, I taught you when you left Trinidad how to take care of yourself. That is what you have to draw on. You have to continue. There's so much I had to say, but you have to say the rest of it. And so I feel like Malik was saying the same thing to me.
Wow, Cheryl, that's powerful.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I feel. And that's when I learned I must have a limitless heart, because after I lost Malik, I thought my heart was limited. Well, I wasn't a person. I was body only. But I continued to work, and thank God for therapy. And I will always say it. I was in therapy for 3.5 years. Now, everyone doesn't necessarily have to do that. For some people, 10 weeks is enough. For me, it was not. You do what you feel is right for you. And
It
I'm
is.
saying this to anybody listening. Take care of yourself. You cannot do it alone.
And I think, both of us, not saying this is the key factor, because we, like you said, Malik, your mother, they're around you. They're telling you you must go on. But both of us share, like, you have a social work background. I have a counseling background. When I would tell people you should get in counseling, they thought I was, recommend like poison to them, or, because in our community, there's such a stigma around
Yes.
getting help. And I don't think you just need to go to a counselor. I think you should have a whole support team, and I do. I have a spiritual leader. I have a counselor. I just have several people, and I have angels that walk with me. I have my ancestors. I mean, I call on everybody.
Yes.
And it's so you're not doing it alone, even though ultimately we all have to rise. We have to get up off that bed of mourning or the bed of grief or illness, and we both suffer from
chronic illnesses.
Chronic illness. You're type 1, right?
Type 1
diabetes. Yeah. And I am have fibromyalgia, and was diagnosed with stage 3 multiple myeloma in 2019, and I'm in remission. But that's a misnomer, because with multiple myeloma, there's no, you don't get rid of this cancer. You learn to live with it, and you have it. And but the end of that day, though, we still have our creativity.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Because when you share your poems, I feel like you're speaking to me personally. Your work has such courage, such joy. You allow yourself to experience grief, but you give us hope, and you open the door for us to. How do you do that? How do you stay writing the way you do, as many books as you do? How are you doing this? Please tell me.
Because you do it, but I appreciate, that's high praise coming from you. You're so prolific, and I look up to you and how you stay writing.
Thank you.
Just stay writing. And for me, the way I do it is, people do not believe me when I say I'm an introvert as well as an extrovert. I'm split. So when cancer,
I believe you.
yes, when cancer happened and COVID, the world shut down, and I came to my home, I was perfectly okay to be here. Like, matter of fact, my body was like, what took you so long to get here? And cancer was not something I ever thought that would be in my path, but we never think the things that are good. We never know what's around the corner. We never know the next day. And so one of the things I will say, people say, why are you so upbeat? I'm not an upbeat in a Hallmark hokey kind of way. I'm upbeat because I live and work because I have something to do. And the poetry is a lifeline. And so why would that stop during a cancer diagnosis? If I was upbeat before that, I don't say why me. Yes, I have hard days. I mean, I have good days and I have bad days, and I will always have those. But I always try to find one thing to get up for. Now, it could be the flowers. I love flowers like you do, my garden. It could be the birds in the backyard. It could be my grandson, Julian, who lives with me. my granddaughters in Durham. But I always, and then my grandmother was with me a lot, and she still is, Katie Latimer, who died when she was 109.
Whoa.
I don't have a right to give up. I can't. It's not an option. And you know that line, we both love Lucille Clifton, and every day something has tried to kill me and has failed.
It has failed.
And I feel like there are days I'm failing and I'm celebrating and failing, and death's at the party. And I have learned to dance with death. I have learned to walk with death.
I hear you. I hear you. And I agree with you, especially when you say, I don't have a right to feel poor me, poor me. Yes, there's sometimes you feel that way, but I'm not going to prolong that. Not
Right.
when I look around and see all the blessings that I have. The people that came to our rescue, our support.
That's right.
After we lost our son. And I remember we had a group of women at my house. And
Yes.
you were one of those women. Again, you were with Patricia.
Yeah.
And came over, and that was so wonderful. And I think that people are afraid to call on others and say, I need help. When people asked me after Malik passed, what do you need? I said, bring the babies to my house. Because they don't know anything.
That's right. And they're in the moment. They have their joy. They have their needs. And you're caught up. That is the be here now.
Yes.
These are the be here now. And they teach us, and they remind us we're breathing. We're not, because I can't imagine losing a child like you did.
Yeah.
But I saw you making that step of coming back. It's not something I believe you get over. You will never get over.
No.
And there is the limitless heart. You expanded, yeah, in your grieving.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Cheryl. It's not easy, is it?
No, it's not easy. But I never thought I could be happy again, but I am.
You are joy personified. Like
thank you.
And you are in your 70s. You are sexy. You are beautiful. You feel yourself, that lipstick line of imp. But you never know. People who didn't know you would not know what you came through, what you're coming through, and we're privileged to have you putting head and heart to paper.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same about you. In fact, when they asked me, with whom did I want to speak tonight, I was like, only one person I want to talk with, Glenis. I want us to read and talk and just share, because I know we have been experiencing some of the same struggles. But if one did not know what you were personally going through, your work speaks to everything we want to be as writers. It has all the mountains, all the valleys, but still keeps bumping along. And, I want people to get your work and read it. And no, it's not over. It's not over. Yes. And please do accept your sadness or whatever your life is, but don't stay there. Keep going.
Yes, I agree with that. And, it's just like don't accept, don't fall down and stay there. Today I'm physically not feeling my best, but that's how it is with my immune system and what I'm living with. And then to get the news of my friend Benjamin Obadiah Zephaniah, poet, Jamaican poet, but born in England, Birmingham.
Brave poet too.
Yes, and he died He died today of a brain tumor, so we don't know. And I wanted to share this poem because I'm grieving. I'm trying to be present. And I know he would want me to be present. I reached out to him on September 17th. We haven't talked in 10 years. We were pen pals for 20 years.
Wow.
And I inboxed him and he said, there you are. Like we picked up this line like we had never stopped talking. And today when I got the news, and I know many people are shook, to their core, but I wanted to recite this poem in memory of Benjamin. And I love a man with biblical names, Benjamin, Obadiah, Zephaniah. This poem, my favorite season. I felt the Tacoma fall chill air as I walked alongside Renee, button in my favorite coat, the one with the faux fur collar, and magnetic clips as buttons. I struggled to match her long stride, but we twinned with our plaited hair. When we entered her hush-filled home, she did not warn me of her mama lying on the couch taking a nap on her way somewhere from which she would not return. Every one of her bones pronounced, but I was not afraid. I felt the room hum around me like it did in chapel, when the rays of light shone about me through stained glass windows, when she extended her skinny branch of an arm and circled me with her voice clear as the dome of sky outside. Glenis, come here. Don't you know I love you? Me, a scruff of a muffin little girl, what did I know of love? But her words made a solid landing. I think it was about the place she was going. I think it was about the words I had never heard uttered to me. Every autumn, I think of Mrs. Langley, when the leaves turn golden, rust, and ruby, and begin their dancing descent. I can feel her brightness upon me. Especially now on my own cancer journey, I remember the gifts she gave me, and now I too never hesitate to say to anyone in need, I love you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow.
Loss is work.
Poetry is work.
Poetry is work. And to take what I see what you do is taking the loss, taking the joy, taking the mourning, and you alchemize. You alchemize with your work. And one of the things I love about your work is your use of metaphor. I mean, that's why I really say you're a poet's poet, because in your metaphors, you speak in so many different languages. You shape shift. It's shamanic. And there's a healing that comes from your work and your words that are so well crafted and so beautiful. And I find myself in the shadows and in the grief in your work, but I also find myself in the sunshine,
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, I do. I had another question for you. Let me find my question. So will you, when you talk about the body and you talk about illness, and I don't want us to forget that you're going to read the last poem in your book.
Oh, okay.
How do you wrap your head around chronic illness or a disability, or how do you approach that from a process standpoint? Do you say, okay, I'm writing about this, or so for me, I will say, like, when I'm really hurting, physically hurting from the cancer or from fibromyalgia, that's when I put pen to paper. Like I'm like, I can't do anything else. The pain meds are not going to work. The muscle relaxers are not going to work. The chemo has fried my brain. And I just go to the paper and I just try to write that particular thing. I try to dig in that wound, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not to provoke more pain, but to try to put a balm, a elixir. But you can't just do a surface. You got to go in there and get down in
Yes,
there. So I wanted to hear
yeah.
from you about
Well,
how do you see
I
that?
well, there are different times that I will write different things, but I think that when I'm going through my most fear and my most fear about life, about what tomorrow is going to bring, since I'm aging, I just sit and write. I don't know where it's going to take me. But as I continue to write, a door opens. And I think that was one of the things I learned from Audre Lorde.
Yes.
She said, well, just sit there, write numbers, write letters, write colors, whatever comes to mind. And eventually it's going to land you in a place where you say, wow, I didn't even sit with this in mind. I didn't even know this was at the tip of my pen.
Right.
So that's one of the ways I do it. I mean, there are times too that I say, I want to write about this, and I do. But I
Right.
notice that work, I have to go back and craft and craft. But the work that just falls out is often magical to me, and I'm often surprised. I do quite a bit of edits, though.
Yeah.
Not 99 like Galway Canal. But I do edits just to pull my voice in, just to pull my dialect in, my
Right.
grandmother's spirit, or whatever it is that I'm working on.
That's powerful. I know we're getting close to time. I wondered if I could share a poem about illness and then let you close with a couple of poems and in with that she led me.
Please do. Please do.
I have a hard time writing about illness. I have a particularly hard time writing about my father, who I did not have a great relationship with, and he died in 2003. And a lot of my fear and my illness, I think, it's connected to him in that relationship. So I wrote this one poem called Out of Body that's in Listening Skin. I wanted to share, and it goes like this.
Yes.
Out of my body is where I go when I can't bear being in it. With its elephantine memory, my body bears a psychic map of every welt and wound. Sometimes I fly out the window with night wings. From this height, I can't feel when bullets enter, when the axe lands, or when arrow-like words pierce. On earth, my body furls inward and weeps like a wounded hawk. The gunshot set off a chain, flashed me back to a time when I was 10, and I slipped on the marble floor outside my parents' bedroom. My father, fully dressed in camouflage fatigues and combat boots, stepped over me. He never looked back. Out of the door, he rushes to serve our country. My father became a pain in my ass that morning and remained one. The same year, the doctor asked my mother, has your daughter sustained a blunt force trauma? Her aches and pains present as a 90-year-old woman. The doctor prescribed a red rubber inner tube for me to sit in at my desk in school, as if I would add this insult to my injury by making myself a fifth grade spectacle. I forgive myself for falling, but I don't forgive Dad's topple off the pedestal I put him on. He slid in my eyes because he never put an arm out then or ever. I became a tight fist, an unbearable clench. When most of my doctors say fibromyalgia is all in your head, my body says otherwise. My cracked coccyx proves it. Out of my body and out of my mind is just where I'm aiming to go. to daydreams and thousand-yard stares across stretches of land. I travel where my father cannot touch me. This is the only way I inhabit here.
Wow. I get that for the poem. So this is what I mean, so how do you go from that to something so healing for us? Is there a decision you make or you just find yourself there?
I go, oh, I'm hurting. This wound is not from the present day. This wound is from the past. And I have to go visit that past and then examine it, analyze it, dream it, and then reckon. That poem is a reckoning. It was me speaking up. It's not a poem I read a lot, but it's true.
Yeah.
And then I got to find the joy. My resistance, is there. It's in the, I'm living despite what you did to me. And then when my father died, I had to realize I was living to spite him. And when he died, I didn't have that wall anymore. So I had to figure out, what am I right? What are you living for? It's not just in defiance of your father, I had to find all the reasons that make me who I am and start to claim that as well.
But I think you were claiming it before when you made that decision in 5th grade.
Oh,
yeah.
I was very defiant. My father didn't like me. I don't even know. People say, "Oh, your father." I don't even know if he did that. My dad was very misogynistic and chauvinist, and I was the one that stood up to him.
Okay.
It got me in trouble a lot. But it was also the poet, trying to say, "What about this? But what about that?" And no, but I don't. I don't take it lightly. I think every incarnation, every chapter is where we're supposed to be. And so you got to come in with some joy. And I think we're like at 7 minutes. So
oh, okay.
I don't want us to run out of time because you are the reason. And I want to thank Haymarket for publishing you and the work that they do that is so integral to the world. Please go and get all of Cheryl's book, but specifically get the Limitless Heart, the collected works.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to readers following the trajectory of my work and how some of it has changed and how some of it has just intensified.
Right.
Because that being an immigrant always stays the same. Having left my mother at 13, coming to her sister stays the same, but it just takes different incarnations.
Right.
So this one I will read, and I'm just going to make this the last one. It's called She Led Me. And it's I was so fortunate to be able to study with a lot of women poets and observe artists that I had to write this piece called She Led Me. And Ntozake Shange was the first writer I took a class with.
Okay, there we go.
I came to Ntozake's class in search of poems. She sent me for coffee, had me make phone calls, write the class assignment on the blackboard, collected fees at the door. She said, the dancer goes to the bar every day. A poet must go to their writing table. You must write your ass off every day.
Right.
It was Ntozake who led me to Cheryl Clark, to living as a lesbian. The skin of that summer well spent. It was Cheryl Clark who said, stop asking questions about whose voice is this or that, who's saying what. Stop asking questions. Just write, woman, write. Think of yourself as a medium through which work flows. Cheryl led me to Audre Lorde. after I said Audrey invited me to her writing class and I'm scared to go. She said, girl, go to that class and show out. I did, and began using words as weapons. Then it was June Jordan, her voice a red chiffon robe left on the floor, and Kimiko Han and her meandering road to Zuhitsu, and Alexis Pauline Gums and her revolutionary mothering, and Lucille Clifton, that landscape of a good woman, hands on hips, showing us again what we came here to do.
Yes.
She guided me to Nikki Finney.
Yes.
Nikki, I found that big bimbo gal you warned me of. That big ass mouth waiting in my notebook. Both grandmothers watching. Since then, I have not wanted to do anything else but write and hold that woman that I love. You told me I would love myself too, Nikki. The Trini Backwater poems came. The Trini Backwater poems came. The white sage and cayenne pepper I poured into my pen grew and grew like the wreck of a sweet mouth I built for myself. Fine as it could be.
Woo!
Let me. Thank you.
Powerful last poem, a fitting ending for this book. You all, those are the words of Cheryl Boyce-Taylor. You need to get this and be in conversation with these poems and with Cheryl. Cheryl, I'm just so honored to share this space with you this evening and to continue bonding and connecting with you through poems, through tea, through fruit, through flowers, through
Yes.
you are what they call you a real one. You are a real one.
You're one of them real ones. That's what they say. But Glenis, I am so grateful for you joining me. I felt in my heart that the listeners needed to hear why we write, how we write, through what circumstances we write, because you can't give up. And the only way you get better as a writer is to keep at it.
Yes.
Keep doing it.
Yes.
And thank you so much for your love and your heart and your words.
So much love for you and honoring. And I love the way you honor women who came before you, the shoulders that you are standing on, your mother who read poetry, all of your mentor poets. And I feel the same way about my lineage. And also the thing that I say, the last line I have a poem is how to become your own super shero. And the last two lines of the poem is, I meet the looks I get with a direct gaze as a warrior, a Maasai woman, a Southern sage. Stares translated, if cancer can't kill me, you sure can't.
Yeah.
We are here. And we ain't going nowhere until the mission is complete. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you. I just have a little line like that. When I think about losing Malik and what that did to me, I was like, I didn't lose my mind then. I won't lose it now. Nothing could slay me like that.
That is
and
right.
I'm still here. So I'm saying to all of you readers, Sean, thank you so much for working with me the last few days. Thank you. This has been a wonderful evening, and I'm wishing everybody a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Get books and read.
That's right. Stay right. Stay right. Keep reading. And what a joy. And thank you, Haymarket. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Erica. Maya. Yes.